Good day, my children, good day. Welcome back to another episode of our series on mead, otherwise known as Dillon Talks Too Much About a Subject You Probably Only Care Slightly About. In this episode, we at Allwise Meadery will elaborate on how to make mead, the basics for all who might want to try making some themselves. You may be wondering to yourself, Dillon, I don't just enjoy drinking whatever I can throw down the old gullet. I like to know how my drinks are brewed. I like to socialize intelligently about my consumption. How do you make this? Well, my friend, I will explain this to you through the glory of voiceover and insert shots. Behold. To start brewing mead, you need a few things. Honey, water, a yeast, I use wine yeast, a vessel to hold those ingredients in fermentation, and a lid for the vessel with an airlock. Those are the bare minimum, but some other things that might help you along the way are a hydrometer, an autosiphon hose, and some brewing sanitizer. Chances are you have a home brewing store close to you or in the nearest city, and if not, most of these things can also be found online. First things first is the sterilization. This is one of the most important steps and will keep your mead from tasting like a dog's dirty ass. Cleaning is important for a ton of obvious reasons, but a number of bacteria can turn your mead into poison, while others can make it sour, so make sure that you clean it thoroughly. Then we move on to making our must, which is the name of the mixture we put into the fermenter. Now, I recommend warming your honey unless you're extremely powerfully buff like me. Once you've warmed up your honey in any way that you can, begin mixing your water with your honey in a separate vessel from your fermenter. Now, the water to honey ratio that you use will affect the type of mead that you end up creating. More honey, the sweeter the mead, obviously. So take care to do some research into the specific style that you would like. Otherwise, just wing it. Either way, use your hydrometer to get an accurate reading once you're ready to put it all into the fermenter, but we'll get back to that soon. During this time, you're going to want to prepare your yeast. Generally, yeasts come in either two varieties, dehydrated or wet, and depending on your preference, your adding it to the must will differ in practice. Either way, most yeasts provide instructions on how to add it in, and dry yeasts need to be rehydrated before use. So follow the instructions and add an amount proportionate to your amount of must. More yeast if you're unsure. I will note that honey is a difficult food for yeast to eat, so if you are experiencing fermentation issues, as in your mead isn't the alcohol percentage you planned on, you probably need to give your yeast a little extra boost with some nutrients, or cold brew coffee. And that's just a jest, don't actually do that ever. Professional meaderies and breweries sometimes make their own yeast as well, and if that is interesting to you, be sure to explore that route thoroughly because trying it can be very hairy, trust me. Finally, mix your yeast into your must once the must is cooled and transfer your mead to a fermentation vessel. Do not fill up your fermenter all the way to the brim. I'm serious, leave headroom. This is important as the yeast will get swole AF and will bubble on top of the must. Then take a reading of the gravity or Brix using your hydrometer and record it. Put a splash of water in your airlock and then insert it into the fermenter lid or the bung to seal it and allow for CO2 to escape. Stash your vessel in room temperature to warm locations, as a cold environment can slow fermentation. You should start to notice your airlock bubbling after a few hours or even sooner. Let that big old bear hibernate for a few weeks and then take another reading with your hydrometer after then if you bought one. Compare the results to find your alcohol percentage. Now, technically, your mead is done after 2 weeks of fermentation, but I'm obliged to tell you that you should probably wait a little bit longer and also think about re-racking it, which is a term used to describe the transferring of your mead to another fermentation vessel and getting it off the yeast cake. And when I say yeast cake, what I mean is the layer of dead yeast on the bottom of your fermenter. You may have noticed by now. Keeping your mead on this yeast cake can sometimes create off flavors in the product, and many prefer to re-rack, but it isn't entirely necessary. Now, you are ready to drink that mead. So bottle her up or pour her in a barrel because she's primed to go. What I've told you is the bare minimum needed to brew mead, but there is a whole world of possibility out there, and I will explain in future episodes. Arguably, the best part about brewing mead is sharing it though. So give it to your friends and try it all together. On the professional level, the process changes pretty drastically. At Allwise, we do things like pump overs, we degas, we filter for clarity, we barrel age, and a whole lot more. So if you're interested in seeing some of this process, swing by our space in Brooklyn and we'll give you a tour to show you what it takes to run a meadery yourself. Otherwise, you'll have to make do with the vegetating effects of these videos being streamed directly into your eyeballs. If you have any brewing questions, whether mead or anything else for that matter, please just reach out to any of our social medias, and until next time, see ya.